All right, hey, what's up, guys? So UFC Fight Night is happening this weekend. Tsarukyan versus Gamrot, a great matchup in the lightweight division here. This is a great card with a great main event. So let's get started. Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot. What do you think, Lorenzo?
All right, there. So first or foremost, our friend Dermer will not be here, so it'll be just us two. And I gotta say, uh, Armin Saryukin, it says here in Topology he's a minus 260. That line's close to like a minus 330 on the site that we use. And like I can absolutely see this man. This man could definitely be the future. I was a big Joel Alvarez stan. I was like, Joel Alvarez is gonna upset him. And dude, he just took him down and then he landed the luckiest elbow ever, and then the fight was stopped there. His striking is pretty decent. He has heavy hands. He's like let's see, is he how tall is he? He's 5'7".
5'7". Yes.
Yeah, cause he's fucking dense, dude. He's like Michael Chandler dense too, which is what scares me a little bit. A Michael Chandler that actually uses his wrestling and a good fight IQ. And he took, of course, his famous thing is he took Islam to a decision. I think we read too much into that as Islam was clearly winning in rounds 2 or 3. But Mateusz Gamrot, his only loss was against Kutateladze via split decision, though I thought Kutateladze definitely won that one. He has good takedown defense. He has much better hands than Armin, but I think this might be a grappling match for all we're going to see. So I think the smart money is Armin, but one thing I would say is that Mateusz Gamrot has a lot more 5 round experience than Armin does, and he's much better on the feet. So I could see this being contested on the feet, and then he goes for a single leg, and then we see who comes out on top there. So smart money's Armin, but I'm going with Mateusz Gamrot. Yeah, that's my guess.
All right, very nice. Well, so that's interesting. That's an interesting point you made there because I think a lot of people are overlooking the fact that Gamrot does have 5 round experience. So he was the KSW champion before he got signed to the UFC. And so, yeah, he was fighting in 5 round championship fights. Some of them go to the decision. So he's been 5 rounds. The thing that scares me about Gamrot is that his last fight, he didn't really look that good against Diego Ferreira.
Mm-hmm.
He was honestly, like in my opinion, losing the fight. Like I had money on Gamrot for that fight, and let me tell you, I was very nervous for Gamrot in that fight because I was like, man, it looks like he was having trouble like taking down Diego Ferreira, and he couldn't hold him on the ground, and it looked like he was kind of getting gassed a little bit, and then he landed a knee that broke Ferreira's rib, and that's how he won the fight. So that's a little bit of a red flag for Gamrot there because I mean Armin Tsarukyan is just better than Diego Ferreira. If he can't
Mm-hmm.
hold Diego Ferreira down, I don't think he's going to be able to hold Armin down. He might not even be able to take down Armin, and so I do believe that this fight will take place on the feet. I think both these guys' grappling skills are very top tier. I think that Gamrot is probably a little bit better of a grappler. At least he has better jujitsu. Maybe his wrestling is not as good as Armin's, but yeah, I don't think Armin's going to want to take it to the ground. I don't think Gamrot can take it to the ground. So I think it's going to be on his feet, and on his feet, I think it's very close. I don't think that Gamrot is necessarily a better striker. I don't think that I think it's possible that Armin could be the better striker. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, I just see this being a very close fight, and I don't think the line reflects how competitive this fight is because I do think they are very evenly matched.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a really close fight. And one thing I forgot too is that, dude, I'm looking at Armin's strength of schedule though. He's currently on a 5 fight win streak, but Olivier Aubin-Mercier, shout out to him. He's actually in the finals for the PFL, I think, just this weekend or last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Davy Ramos, Matt Pravola, Christos Giagos, and Joel Alvarez. This is one of those things where uh I'm gonna bring up Dermir who's not here. Is that Dermir kind of discounts Islam because he fought a bunch of no names, quote unquote. Same thing with Charles, right? Where they fight a bunch of unranked killers. I kind of see Saryukin doing the same thing because I'm looking at this like, damn, that's insane here. Uh, so I think we're pretty much. Wait, who did you choose? Because I think Armin is probably gonna win, but I'm going with Gamrot because of the odds, and I think he might be better on the feet.
I'm gonna go with Gamrot. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with Armin Tsarukyan just because I think he's looked more impressive in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
His only real blotch on his record is the Islam loss, and other than that, he's pretty much dominating his opponents. Like he's never in a bad, like he's never like in the danger of losing. Whereas Gamrot, he lost to Guram. Like fair play, Guram's really tough, but then like against it looked dicey when he was fighting against Diego Ferreira. So I just think Armin is more proven. His record's better. So I am going to pick Armin, but on paper, I think this is a very well matched fight.
Yeah, and I agree completely. I think Diego Ferreira is a better grappler than you probably give him credit for. I think isn't he a former world champion jiu-jitsu? I can't quite remember, but I also think that of all the people they fought, I think Guram Kutateladze, he was the toughest out of everybody that's been fought there. I was impressed with his performance against Damir Ismagulov. He lost via split decision, but the media had it for Guram for most of the fight there. And he has insane takedown defense, is really good on the feet there. But yeah, Tsarukyan is ultimately the best here.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
But I wouldn't play the money line for this fight. I think that's too much to pay for Armin, and I guess maybe if you want to like sprinkle some money on a Gamrot underdog, I think that's reasonable. But what I would do here is, I think I would bet the over. I think the over is 4.5 rounds.
Oh, that's a good bet.
I think these two are very evenly matched. I think, it's hard for me to see that one person will finish the other. So I would pick the over for this one.
The over's good. I'd pick Gamrot because I think via decision plus 500. My only worry is I believe Gamrot got dropped in this fight from Guram. That'd be my only worry. But and Tsarukyan's been finishing people now. So, but yeah, I think you make the decision now, audience.
Yeah. All right. We pretty much covered that fight pretty good. Yeah. So let's go on to the co-main event. Another really good fight between Neil Magny and Shavkat Rakhmonov, the true next champion at the 175 or 170 pound division. Yeah. So what do you think about this fight?
I think that they're doing really good for Shavkat Rakhmonov to see if he's the real deal or not, because Neil Magny is that fighter you want to be tested against there, because he's not really bad at anything. He's good on the feet, he's good on grappling, he's a really good all-arounder. And so, like, if you're not good at something, he's gonna exploit you, and he's gonna beat you there. And so I think he's a really good test for Shavkat Rakhmonov, because as much as I like Shavkat, and I know he's former champion, I know he's good on the feet, like, when I look at his record, at least in the UFC, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure about his record outside the UFC, except that he got rocked once and kind of, survived, so to speak. But it's just not impressive. Like, he beat Carlson Harris, who's like a small dude, and then he beat Michael Pereira, who I believe was called in on short notice and was also a small dude. And I guess he beat Cowboy, Alex Oliveira. But he is still winning, I guess. But Alex Oliveira, I don't know. He's a good test for unranked people, so he's good not to be ranked. I think Shavkat will ultimately win. He's younger, former world champion. He's also pretty big. I don't, because it's tough. Because I could also see this being a really close decision, to be honest, because that's just the type of fighter Neil Magny is. But I'd probably go with Shavkat because, Sambo, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard not to pick Shavkat here. I like him a lot because I think Magny's game plan is he's probably gonna just want to grapple with Shavkat, and I don't like Shavkat's dangerous everywhere. I think he's dangerous. He has really good jiu-jitsu. Like he has pretty good submissions. So I just don't see an area where Neil Magny can be safe at, other than like maybe the clinch. Because I think if he wants to take it to the ground, like again, like Shavkat has really good submissions and really good jiu-jitsu, and Neil Magny has been submitted before in the past, quite quite a bit, and Shavkat's a pretty big guy. And then on the feet, I mean, like we know what he can do on the feet, like big power, like the spinning like hook kick against Carlson Harris was amazing. So yeah, I mean, I like Shavkat. I think he's better pretty much everywhere. I think he's gonna finish him.
Really?
Yeah, because actually, funny thing about Shavkat is, or interesting fact is, he has 15 wins, and I believe 8 of them are by submission and 7 of them are knockout. So he's never won a fight, or he's never won a fight by decision, and he's obviously never lost a fight.
Yeah.
So I think the move here would just to play like Shavkat by decision, or I mean, sorry, by finish, because Neil Magny has a history of getting finished in the past. So, and it seems like Shavkat's the next guy besides Hamzat. So, if he's the real deal, I believe he should be able to finish Neil Magny.
That's fair enough then. I think Neil Magny's a good test for him, and I think this is good matchmaking because with the what's his name, Kazmat, they just shot him all the way to the top pretty much, and I wouldn't say he's exposed, but it's good experience. He probably needed another fight or two in between, but they're taking a little bit shower Shavkat here. I also got something wrong. Apparently Neil Magny's the bigger fighter here. I don't know if it'll matter much. It's 2 inches in height, 3 inches in reach. The only other thing I'd say is Neil Magny has enough experience, but yeah, I think Shavkat's the smart money, and I'd probably bet him in this fight.
Yeah, I think Shavkat will roll. All right, so let's move on. We're gonna go a little bit down here. We're going to Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Viera. So I could start off with this fight a little bit. So Rodolfo Viera, he's famous for getting submitted by Anthony Hernandez. Basically, he was dominating Anthony Hernandez, I believe, in the first round, but then he just completely gassed, going for the takedowns, and then and then in the second round he just completely gassed out, and then Anthony Hernandez submitted him, tapped him out with a guillotine. So not a good look for a jiu-jitsu world champion. But then he bounced back against Dustin Solsvis. He was able to improve his cardio, or at least like he didn't just like empty the tank the first round, right? So he did a pretty good performance, and then ended up submitting Dustin Stoltzfus in the third round. So I think he's hopefully fixed those cardio issues. But Chris Curtis, he's had a pretty good run in the UFC so far, right? Like, big underdog against Phil Hawes. Ended up catching Phil Hawes, showed that power, knocked him on the first round. And then really good performance against Brendan Allen. Was also an underdog in that one. So upset against Brendan Allen. So I think obviously the story of this fight is just going to be, will Rodolfo Viera be able to take down Chris Curtis and submit him? Because I think if he can't, then I think Chris Curtis pretty much wins. Viera's pretty one-dimensional, like obviously like jiu-jitsu world champion. He's going to look for the submissions. But yeah, I mean, I like Chris Curtis here. I think he has really good training partners out at Extreme Couture. He trains with Sean Strickland. And he's only been submitted, I believe, once in his career, and it was like 10 years ago. So it's going to be tough submitting Chris Curtis. And yeah, if Viera can't do that, I just think Chris Curtis probably knocks him out, like as the rounds go on, because I think he's going to put that pace on Viera, and Viera's probably just going to gas. So I like Chris Curtis here. I think he's going to finish Viera.
Yeah, I think you cover that pretty well. I love the fact that you said that, like, Rodolfo Viera is pretty one-dimensional, as he probably should be as a jiu-jitsu world champion. I think one thing that there should be distinction, though, is there's a difference between jiu-jitsu grappling and MMA grappling. 2 completely different games, and somebody can punch you in the face midway through. And so his takedowns they're okay, I guess. but they're not the best. And Chris Curtis can still have takedowns as well. And I also think this is I'm just gonna touch about Chris Curtis that he's kind of a journeyman, but he's 34, no spring chicken, but I could see him on a good day getting ranked, to be honest, because when you look at his record, it's a little deceptive. So here are his losses. He lost to Bilal Muhammad back in 2014. We're gonna skip the other three because this fit my narrative. Okay, the GOAT, right? The Chicago legend, man, the future person who's going to defeat Kazma via via split decision. I don't know who Nanshan Burrell is, but the next people he lost to were Magomed Kirimov and Ray Cooper III, and those were against like PFL finalist champions. Those people are legit. Ray Cooper also beat who is the GSP's protege? The guy who Robbie Lawler versus
Oh fuck!
what is his name?
What's that last fight? He beat Magomed Karamov, the dude who beat Chris Curtis. Oh, Roy McDonald?
Yeah, he beat Roy McDonald. Ray Cooper III beat him. And
Yeah.
so like these guys, these are all like pretty high level losses here. And so him beating Phil Hawes was winning that fight, but then he knocked him out. And then Brendan Allen, he knocked him out. And a lot of his wins are via stoppage or via knockout here. So I could see Chris Curtis just being the more experienced man in MMA. And honestly, like, he has 8 losses. Rodolfo Viera has 9 fights in his career. Chris Curtis has 28 victories. So I think he's just the more experienced person here. And he obviously has power in his hands because Brendan Allen, he's pretty good. Pretty good. You know, he arguably lost his last fight against...
Malkoon.
Against Malkoon. I actually thought he lost too, but the judges, I guess, aren't rewarding wrestlers anymore. But yeah, I would say Chris Curtis wins this via experience, and he'll probably find him with a punch and knock him out there. I don't see Rodolfo Viera going very far, simply because more of a complete fighter.
Yeah, I can see the way I see this fight going is probably Viera's gonna go hard in that first round, try to take down and submit Chris Curtis, but Chris Curtis defends it, and then probably as the rounds go on, Curtis is gonna turn on the pressure and finish Viera. Mm-hmm. So that's how I see it.
He carries that power too. Round 3, knockouts. He had somebody quit on their stool on the independent circuit, so he has good power.
There we go.
All
right. Moving on to the prelims here. We have Tafon Nchukwi versus Carlos Ulberg. So Carlos Ulberg, he trains out at City Kickboxing. So far though, in his UFC career, it's been pretty lackluster, honestly. Like, so against Kennedy Nchukwi, he came in as a really big favorite, and he was putting it on Kennedy, but then totally gassed out and ended up losing he ended up getting knocked out by Kennedy in the second round, after gassing out. And then I guess he took from that fight, and then against Fabio Cherant, did the exact opposite, where he just stayed to the outside and like peppered Fabio Cherant with like low strikes, nothing major, and just won like a boring decision. Mm-hmm. Which fair play to him. I mean, he like, it's not that like Fabio was doing anything either, so he ended up just cruising to a victory there. But Fabio's not very good. He's cut from the UFC. I think he's like 0-4 in the UFC or something like that. Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, he's just not very impressive for a guy with like a pretty impressive kickboxing record, I think. Yeah. Whereas Tafon Nchukwi actually does have very good performances in the UFC. So his last fight against Azamat Mirzakhanov, he did really well there. And then just in the third round, Azamat was gassed completely, but then he just threw a Hail Mary flying knee that knocked Tafon out. So not a good fight for Tafon, but he was winning that fight against a guy who's now 11-0 and is considered a decent prospect in the sport. So that's pretty good. And then he beat Mike Rodriguez, who has a name. Mm-hmm. Majority decision loss to Jin Park, who's a pretty good middleweight, and then beat Jamie Pickett. So I just think Tafon has a better resume in the UFC. He has better activity. considering their last couple fights. So I think Tafon's a good pick here. It's rough. It's pretty much even. So I'm just gonna side with him. I don't think Carlos Ulberg is anything special. And I think we see it with these city kickboxing guys. I think a lot of them, they kind of just get their way in the UFC because like they have like other guys that kind of vouch for them, right? Like they have Izzy vouching for them, Volk vouching for them, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I like Tafon here,
and I think the Izzy thing's important too, because I told you before we started recording, he kind of felt like Izzy, or Carlos Ulberg felt like Izzy, where he was kind of going the outside, poking, hitting, and there you go. Because one thing that city kickboxing does really well is they teach their fighters to feint a whole lot. So they feint, and MMA fighters should use more feints. And then, like, boom, they hit them eventually. So I think the problem is that Carlos Ulberg, I know him most for one fight. And that was him against Kennedy and Nchukwi, I believe. Where it looked like he was laying on the pressure, he was going to knock him out. But then he basically just gassed, and then, Kennedy and Nchukwi knocked him out. And like you said, Fabio Schern's not an impressive victory. I think I'm going to agree with you here, because Tafon and Nchukwi, he's just more experienced. He actually fights higher level competition. The one thing you could say is that Carlos Ulberg probably has a better camp, as I've never heard of Team Lloyd Irving, to be honest.
They're big in the jiu-jitsu world, actually. Actually, they're a pretty controversial camp. I could talk to you about this off camera. Yeah, there's a lot of drama around Team Lloyd Irving.
So, yeah, I think Tafon Nchukwi is the smarter fight. I don't know if he'll finish him. Maybe, probably decision, to be honest. So, probably bet the over on this one if you're not sure.
All right. Cool. What else do we want to talk about? So
we'll mention Rylan Pava versus Sergey Morozov. Rylan Pava famous for getting knocked out by the Sugar Show.
Oh, really?
Sergey Morozov, bet on him. Probably gonna wrestle him. Cody Durden versus JP Buys. Cody Durden, he said some racist stuff, so nobody likes him. JP Buys, the problem with JP Buys is not very good. He got dropped by Montel Jackson, and I don't know if Montel Jackson had power, so I can see Cody Durden winning or whatever. I don't know about Mario Batista versus Brian Kelleher, and Jinh Frey versus Vanessa Demopoulos. So, Jinh Frey's had a bit of a career resurgence here. So she's 37. She was a former champion, and I think Invicta, if I'm not mistaken. And so, one thing with her is that I seen this on commentary that like she lost her few fights in the UFC. She lost to Kay Hansen, who's, not necessarily good. She's got cut. She lost to Loma Luke Boomy, who's fair enough. Loma Luke Boomy's pretty good. And then on commentary, it's just along the lines that she got like what do you call it? Psychological therapy, the same thing Chao Sonnen got, where they realized there was a mental block. And then she won her next two fights pretty decisively against Gloria DePaulo and Ashley Yoder here. And so I could see her just beating Vanessa Demopoulos, because Vanessa Demopoulos, she's okay. She's most famous for doing a split after tapping Juarez, I believe, the girl who...
Yes, Ana Gomez.
Yeah, the girl who got a knockout, or the woman who got a knockout last week here.
Yeah.
So I could see this. She's not very good at stopping the takedown. To be fair, though, she fought against JJ... What's her name? JJ Aldrich, yeah. And JJ Aldrich is up a weight class, bigger than her. But I just think that Jinh Frey is going to bully her a little bit. Going to go for the takedown, too well balanced and everything. And why is this on Tapology? Vanessa Demopoulos could be on season 2 of Ultimate Beastmaster.
What is that?
That's like a Netflix version of American Ninja Warrior. And it's
honestly, that's something I see her do because she's also a former stripper.
Yeah, that's why she did the split.
So, yeah, I'm not surprised she competed in season 2 of Ultimate Beastmaster.
Why is that on Tapology?
I don't know.
They're gonna mention Jordan Shane Pierre was in some commercials next.
But yeah, I don't think Vanessa Demopoulos is not that good. I mean, fair enough, she got an armbar on Silvana Gomez, but that was right before she got knocked down by her, and you know, like armbars happen, you get caught in them, but I don't think that's like a reliable method of victory. And yeah, Jinh Frey's probably going to be good enough at jiu-jitsu to stop any offense that Vanessa Demopoulos has, and probably just ride out a decision on top with the top control and total strikes, I would guess.
Yeah, the only thing that might give our Vanessa Demopoulos fans pause out there, her losses are to actually pretty real names. So, she beat Sam Hughes, who's whatever, but she lost to Corey McKenna and Lupita Godinez, and we're Loopy fans here. So, if you really want to bet on Vanessa Demopoulos, need some sort of rationalization, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the bets then.
Yeah, so my bets for this weekend, I have Armin Gamrot, that fight to start round 3, parlayed with Shavkat moneyline, parlayed with Thiago Moises. So that's at plus 133. I have 5 units down on that. Moneyline, Tafon Nchukwi, minus 115, 3 units on that. And then, excuse me, Chris Curtis and the over 1.5. So that's the thing you could bet on DK. That's plus 275, 2 units down on that.
That's good. I like your first bet. We forgot to mention Thiago Moises, but he's probably parlay.
Yeah, Crystal Shagos is pretty good. So
yeah,
Dermer
is not here, so he gets, I guess, 0 for the week, which might not be bad for him. He had a pretty rough week. He lost all his bets.
Yeah, he's had a pretty rough couple weeks. So honestly, probably not bad for him to take this week off.
Yeah, I'm also in the negatives, everybody, for the first time in a while. So.
Yeah, we're not doing very hot right now.
Yeah, so I had Gamrot via decision for 500, 2.5 units. Cody Durden, minus 104, 2.5 units. Chris Curtis, money line. Because I could see it maybe a decision, maybe a knockout. Minus 138, 2.5 units. And Jinh Frey, they didn't have her props up yet, but I would do her by decision when the props actually do come out. Okay.
All right. Those are our cold takes. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Peace, yo.